I'm joined today by Darryl Moodley, who's Head of Tailored Investments at Sanlam Corporate, and we're looking at the Sanlam Benchmark Survey for 2022 that's just been concluded. I believe it's the 41st one in the series, and it's been going for many, many years. It's been a highly respected set of research that a lot of people have looked at for many, many years and taken their cues from that in terms of trends and developments in the industry. Today we're going to look at some of the highlights from the survey, and Darryl will guide us through some of them.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Chris. I think you're spot on in that we've been running the survey for 41 years now, so multiple decades. And really the point of the survey is to provide a health check on the status of the retirement fund and employee benefits industry in South Africa, and importantly, it provides us as well as the wider industry some insights into the direction of travel for retirement funds and the creation of employee value propositions, which we know is quite important in the industry. We polled a range of stakeholders. This year we polled 83 principal officers of standalone funds. We polled around 100 participating employees in umbrella funds, a range of asset consultants, healthcare consultants, umbrella fund sponsors, and quite interestingly, 500 direct consumers to really understand what's going on from a consumer point of view and what's important to them. As I mentioned, a wide-ranging survey with several types of stakeholders to enable us to dissect and get a 360-degree view of the industry. What's really been interesting from, in particular, the consumer study is that South Africans have, emerged from the pandemic more aware and careful with their finances, and this is despite, 2/3 of them being kept wide or being kept awake at night, worrying about how they will weather a financial emergency and worrying, about retirement. And this is not unsurprising, given that around 73% of, consumers or respondents have experienced a loss of income, either partially or in full, as a result of the pandemic. 1 in 5 people have needed to access some of their long-term investments to fund their living expenses. And, I presume with the current environment where we see, the cost of living going up significantly, fuel prices and food prices and so on, this figure is only going to increase into the future. So, one of the statistics coming out of the survey is that 58% of consumers are living more frugally, have cut out all luxury items, as I mentioned, presumably due to the impact of the pandemic, but again, also due to the challenging environment where inflation is running rampant. And, one of the surprising stats, and in fact counterintuitively, in an environment where 3 out of 4 people experienced a reduction in income, as many as 30% of individuals out there have been able to reduce their debt levels. Whether this is sustainable going into the future, we're really uncertain about that. But one of some of the reasons could potentially be that people have spent less on commuting to their place of employment. They've spent less on going out, on entertainment, on eating out. Those type of expenses, and they've really been able to deleverage some of the debt that they've had. A few of the other highlights from the survey, from an investment perspective, infrastructure. We've been talking about infrastructure investment for some time in South Africa, and in particular as it can be a catalyst for economic growth, especially in the context of South Africa, where we have aging infrastructure. And the interesting stat is that umbrella funds increased their asset allocation to infrastructure from around 4.7% just a year ago to 15.5%, which is a significant increase in their level of investment in infrastructure. And a similar increase, although not trebling, but certainly doubling, close to 10% investment from standalone funds. So that's promising for the country, in that retirement funds are starting to deploy their assets into this asset class. Interestingly, I think the take-up of flexible risk benefits also increased quite significantly, with around 38% of standalone funds and around 29% of umbrella funds offering flexibility into their package to employees. And we think that this is in response, again, to COVID-19, as members are starting to place a higher focus on protection benefits, protection benefits such as funeral cover and life insurance cover as well. The two-pot system, recently National Treasury mentioned, the upcoming proposals and implementation of this two-pot system that is going to be implemented in the retirement fund industry. And, certainly one of the more significant developments in the industry over the past few decades. And, I really think it's been proposed to, on one hand, address the poor levels of preservation in South Africa, but also following the impact of COVID, to address the need that many South Africans really do have for meeting their short-term obligations and needs, emergency funding and emergency cash as well, to meet their day-to-day expenses. One of the interesting stats that has come out from the survey relates to preservation and why preservation in the industry is rather poor, and one of the issues that we need to address as an industry. So the consumer study showed that while some progress has been made in terms of effective communication to members when they relieve their employment or their employer, it's revealed that members who were polled who had withdrawn their retirement funds when changing jobs, 63% of them had received no counseling from their HR team and had simply been given a withdrawal form to sign without any of the implications being explained. And, this can go some way in terms of explaining why we have such, poor preservation rates and retirement outcomes in South Africa. So certainly that's something, that the two-pot system can address. And I think, in terms of just describing what the two-pot system is, so essentially a member's savings will be split into two pots, a retirement pot and an access pot, where the retirement pot consists of around 2/3 of a member's contribution and will only be made available at retirement and must be used to buy a monthly pension. Whereas the access pot, which consists of the remaining 1/3 of a member's contribution, will only be accessible once a year and can be used for short-term financial relief for the member. Now, very interestingly, only around 52% of respondents indicated that they are aware of the proposal, meaning that almost half of consumers out there were not aware that this proposal was on the table, given its wide-ranging ramifications on the industry and on outcomes. And of those who responded, 56% of those respondents indicated that they do not approve of the proposal. Again, presumably as they feel that they will not be able to access this entire savings pot that they have, as 2/3 of it will have to inevitably be deferred to their point of retirement. And I think this, certainly contrasts with some of the initial modeling done by many stakeholders in the industry that suggests that this two-pot system will result in significantly better retirement outcomes for members compared to the status quo. The final point of the survey was, a new addition, in fact, to the survey for us, where we surveyed healthcare brokers to get a state of or an understanding of what's going on in the healthcare market. And, again, unsurprisingly, given the tail end of, or the impact of COVID, we're seeing an increased focus on healthcare and overall wellness, given the impact of the pandemic. I think people are really now valuing their physical health, their mental health. And in fact, 51% of those polled now wanted their employer to start offering more holistic value propositions, offering things such as free doctor or nurse consultations, or, consultations as it pertains to things like nutrition. So really, healthcare becoming quite front and center of this. 13 out of the 15 healthcare brokers interviewed reported that client priorities have changed in the past 2 years in terms of, they're now looking for more holistic healthcare solutions, as I mentioned, an increased importance of things such as gap cover, more emphasis on things such as hospital cover rather than day-to-day benefits. 9 out of the 15 healthcare brokers interviewed that they've introduced additional medical scheme options in the past 2 years to provide wider choice for the members, and that's presumably due to what we've seen in terms of medical inflation as well over the past few years. And I think also half of the funds therefore believe that integrated health and wellness programs are essential to deliver higher productivity and staff happiness, which is something that we totally agree with at Sanlam in terms of being able to develop, create these holistic employee value propositions, and deliver them to the market.
Well, interesting times, interesting findings, Darryl. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it, and we'll certainly engage with you guys still going forward on the topic. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Chris, for your time.